Have you ever considered the different ways to get to class? Hi, I'm Jena, and on today's show we're going to tell you the different options available. I asked a few students around the Lansdowne campus how they get to school and why they use that method.
I ride my bike because I have a vehicle, but I don't really want to pay for the gas the way it's pretty expensive right now.
I take the bus because it's cheaper than driving my car.
I ride a motorcycle. It's less expensive for parking and gas.
I ride my bike because I'm broke. I'm a starving student.
I drive a car because I have a car.
I drive a car because I have a car. It's more convenient.
I walk because I live over there.
I get a ride in the mornings and I take the bus home. And I guess I just take the bus because I feel safer than hanging out in the parking lot at night and stuff.
I take my car because it's too long to take the bus because I live in Sanish.
If you're a car owner, you may think that driving your car to school is a fast way to arrive. Here at the Lansdowne campus, students are encouraged to find alternate means of transportation. While driving a car is a quick way to make it to class on time, you should consider the consequences when you drive. When using your car as your main transportation, you have to think about parking, the cost of owning a car, and most importantly, pollution. The cost of parking in the Lansdowne campus is steep. You will pay $50 for 4-month parking pass, which does not even guarantee you a spot. Even if you have camped in line for a semester pass, you will be sharing the lot with students paying 50 cents for every 3 hours. Sandy Bell, a member of the Parking Advisory Committee, told me what's been done to solve the parking problem. Sandy, what are the parking problems we have here at Lansdowne campus?
What are the parking problems? Well, the main parking problem is space. And it's an overall problem here at Camosun. We have 755 approximately spaces for between 4,000 and 5,000 students. The question is how to make most efficient use of the space that we do have. And decide if we want to use the space that we do have for cars or for classrooms, because we have no more room here at Camosun College. So the parking problems, I mean, they start with space, limited space, and they continue on to the long lineups for parking permits, ticketing that goes along with it, and if you, to flagging of files and denial of transcripts if you don't pay your fines.
Right.
Parking is probably the one issue that I hear the most about from students.
What is the Parking Advisory Committee doing to help us solve these problems?
The Parking Advisory Committee is a committee that was established it's an advisory committee, as you say. It was established by the Finance, Facilities, and Personnel Committee to deal with the parking problem specifically. And it is a new committee. And it has 3 student reps on it, and I'm one of them. Megan Rollins and Rob Burrows are the other 2 student reps. And basically, we're just trying to come to terms with the kind of issues that I just mentioned, parking permits, fines. We made some recommendations and that were implemented, like the reduction of the fine from, it was $20 to $10, a payment box on site, the addition of the 40 spaces. That came out of a series of recommendations from the Parking Advisory Group.
Right, which are new things that have just happened this semester?
That's right,
this
over the
semester?
summer, right.
So the Student Society is encouraging students to find alternate means of transportation?
We want to encourage students, as you say, to use alternative means of transportation. Either take the bus, carpool, walk, or ride your bike to school. Personally, I've given up driving. I don't need the hassle. I don't like waiting in lines. I don't like getting tickets. It's stressful to drive. I like getting on the bus and relaxing, letting the bus driver worry about all the interactions on the road with people. You know, that's one issue for me. And another issue, of course, is the fact that the environmental issue, the fact that cars grossly pollute the environment. I read in my research that a new statistic, something I wasn't aware of, that the largest source of chlorofluorocarbon emissions in the U.S. is air conditioners from cars. Chlorofluorocarbons is the substance that break down the ozone layer, and the reason we all hated styrofoam for so long. And the list goes on in terms of car pollution. But it's just such a mammoth issue trying to get people to break the car habit. It's going to be harder than breaking the smoking habit, but it's kind of similar.
Not only is the cost of parking involved, but also the cost of insurance and maintenance. The cost for insurance, if you have your full safe driving discount, is about $500 for 2 semesters. Regular maintenance can cost as much as insurance, not to mention rising gas prices. Cars produce by far the greatest amount of air pollution, up to 80%. I understand that driving your car to school is a definite convenience. If you have children and you need to drive them to daycare, or maybe you live far away from the campus and other means of transportation would take too much time, you should consider carpooling. It is your responsibility to yourself and the environment to decide whether or not you need to drive your car to school.
These days, a lot of people have chosen motorcycles as an alternative to cars as a means of commuting. On the average, motorcycles cost less to operate and are less polluting than cars. My name is Paul, and I ride a motorcycle. Commuting day-to-day to school means making special considerations. The first is, does the tool fit the job? Is your motorcycle suited to the needs of commuting? There are many kinds of motorcycles, all specialized for different uses. The needs of a commuter are different than that of a racer. I spoke with Pat Savage from the Vancouver Island Safety Council about commuting on a motorcycle. Do you think it's possible to ride all year long in the wet weather of Victoria?
Actually, I think it is. The only time you wouldn't would be during ice and snow conditions on the road. Cold weather riding isn't a problem. We have wonderful weather all year round here. Most motorcycling enthusiasts commute day in and day out all year round. Mm-hmm. Okay. In heavy snow, of course, and ice, you're going to quit. Put the bike up for a week or two. It doesn't last much longer than that in Victoria, so it's not a problem.
Mm-hmm. What kind of wet weather training do you give in the course?
It's all incorporated into the overall training. When we're talking about road surfaces, weather conditions, the physical conditions of the rider himself, the clothing, the helmet, that sort of thing, the tires, prepping a bike for winter riding, it is all incorporated with the rest of the course material on riding the rest of the year, summer weather, winter weather.
Do you recommend a one-piece or two-piece rain suit?
Actually, I have a two-piece. The main reason I prefer a two-piece myself is because in windy weather, not rainy weather, I can wear the pants as a windbreak, and even though I'm wearing a jacket with a down vest, let's say, for warmth. The being able to take the two pieces apart means that I don't have to wear the jacket all the time. And then my movement is not constricted at all by wearing a one-piece, and I think it might be a little bit if you were in a one-piece, unless you had lots of room.
Mm-hmm. What colors would you suggest for the outermost pieces of clothing?
Whatever layer you're putting on top should be in a brilliant color. The word that we use here is conspicuity, and it means you make yourself as conspicuous as you can. Remember, if you're riding in the winter, it's usually duller, grayer, the light conditions are worse, it gets darker sooner, it gets lighter later in the morning. You want bright colors. Okay. If people are riding to and from work throughout the year, Monday to Friday, day in and day out, every week of the year, I've noticed on the roads that people like businessmen will be in their dress shoes, dress socks, dress clothing, and they'll be wearing a tie and a jacket. Instead of rolling those up neatly and putting them in a tank bag or a knapsack and wearing proper riding gear, which is what I recommend, of course, they're exposing their ankles, their hands and wrists, and the rest of their body to abrasion if anything should happen to them. Not only that, but they're not protected from the wind or the rain in any way. So what I would say is if you're going to dress for work, put the shoes in the tank bag or a knapsack, put proper boots on, put proper gloves on, and put something over top of your dress clothes.
You should never ride without wearing protective clothing. Leather boots, gloves, thick pants, a heavy jacket, and a helmet should be standard equipment on any ride. Racing nylon is good, but leather is much better to prevent road rash. That means you can slide a lot farther along the road before it wears through in an accident. Helmets are required by law in BC, but no matter how much you argue, when your head hits the pavement at 30 miles an hour, this is what happens. You are not required to wear eye protection, but in wintertime, it's easier to see when you keep the rain out of your eyes. Considering that almost 80% of accidents happen within a short distance of your home, even a trip to the corner store requires safety precautions. If you feel that suiting up for a ride is a hassle, then walk. There are 3 reasons why anyone would ride a motorcycle in winter. It's just as convenient as a car, but less polluting. It's cheaper on gas, and a parking permit costs less than half what it would cost for a car. But the big reason is, it's a kick.
Ornella. Like many other students, I ride my bike to school every day. Biking is a great way to get to school. It's environmentally smart, it's cheap, and it's great exercise. Of course, around here, finding a place to park your bike is probably the hardest thing to do. The college received a donation of 9 metal bike racks last year, which have been placed around the college. They have almost doubled bike parking capacity at the Lansdowne campus. It's fabulous to see so many people cycling to school rather than driving. It is believed by some that Victoria has the largest population of cyclists in North America. I spoke with Dennis Beams, a national examiner for the Canadian Cycling Association, about bicycle safety. What do you suggest for safe cycling?
Basically, the most important thing for safe cycling is to wear a helmet, preferably a white or yellow one for better visibility. 75% of all cycling deaths are from head injuries, according to one study in the States, and that's a conservative figure. A helmet is designed to use once, throw away. The reason for this is that the modern helmets use something like styrofoam, and the idea is that in the impact, it crushes. It doesn't compress and then spring back, because that would throw all the energy back into your head. It just crushes. So once it's been used, that's it.
What kind of accidents are the most common between cyclists and motorists?
The most common accidents happen in intersections. That's where the cyclist has to be most alert, and that's where it's most important to ride according to the rules of the road.
Are there any laws that cyclists should be aware of?
Yes, the Motor Vehicle Act has a section specifically for bicycles, and it states that the cyclist has all the same rights and responsibilities as a car driver, with the exception that a cyclist must ride to the right of other traffic because they're the slowest vehicle. If you have the same responsibilities as other vehicles, you have the same penalties, which means that a cyclist, if they contravene the Motor Vehicle Act, they're liable for the same kind of fine as any car driver would be. The only difference is that you can't take points off a person's driver's license for an offense committed as a cyclist.
Right. It is the law to have a front light and a rear reflector at night. If you disobey the bicycle laws, you could receive a $75 fine, or the court can legally confiscate your bike for riding unsafely. After I discovered the seriousness of cycling safely, I decided to go to the bike shop. I asked Will Arnold to tell me a little about bike helmets.
Helmets, there are a wide range, but I brought 3 of the most popular ones that we do sell out right now. This one here is a Belviva. It's all helmets must meet a standard requirement for safety. This one, which is the minimum, is ANSI, and of course the higher one is Snell. This one's an ANSI tested helmet. It does not have the Snell testing on it. It's a hard Lexan outer shell with an expanded polystyrene inner, with a visor. It's a very large helmet, a cumbersome helmet, and a very heavy helmet. It weighs about 18 ounces, and this one retails for $40. Up from that, this is probably the most popular helmet that we do sell. It's Bell has said it's the most popular helmet in North America. It's a streamlined helmet, well ventilated, ANSI and Snell tested. It has all the Velcro pads for removing, for hygiene purposes, for cleaning. It brings the weight down. It weighs in about 13.5 ounces. And that comes in 3 shell sizes, which is nice, so you can almost do a custom fit to that one. Up from that, I guess we're getting into a more lighter helmet, more streamlined helmet, and of course the price goes up too on that. What they've done here is they've gone to a thinner Lexan shell, so it's called a micro shell, and that brings down the weight considerably. It's 8 ounces. It's ANSI and Snell tested, and it still has the Velcro pads for removing. This one comes in 4 sizes, so it's almost a better custom fit. And this one here retails for $124. This is the famous helmet that Greg LeMond used to win in the Tour de France. So that is a nice streamlined helmet, and it's ANSI and Snell tested.
Considering there's no fuel, insurance, or parking to pay for, the cost of cycling safely is actually quite inexpensive. Biking to school is a lot of fun and a good environmental decision. But make sure you buy a good lock and secure your bike. Unfortunately, bike theft is pretty common around town. To be extra secure, lock up both tires. You could even take your seat off and bring it with you. I don't know. I think my seat must be rusted on. I couldn't take it off if I tried. Well, time to go to class. Have fun cycling.
My name is Connie, and I'm a regular bus rider. The Lansdowne campus is covered by 2 bus routes. The number 4 Mount Tomey bus stops on Richmond Road about every 20 minutes in the day. If you want to catch the number 14 University Craigflower bus, it stops on Foul Bay Road every 15 minutes in the day. If you're a regular bus rider, it's a good idea to get a monthly bus pass. You can get them from the cashiers in the Dawson building on the Lansdowne campus. Hi, could you answer some questions for me about bus passes? How many courses does a student take in order to get a college pass?
BC Transit state a minimum of 9 credits or 4 courses per month.
How much does a college pass cost?
Our full-time student bus pass costs $28.50 per month.
Are passes sold throughout the whole month?
Bus passes go on sale the last week of the month and for the first 10 days of the upcoming month. At that time, they go back to BC Transit.
Thank you. Recently, I had a chance to see Chris Ford from BC Transit, and we talked about Victoria's bus system. These days, people are really concerned about the environment. What is BC Transit doing to help fight air pollution?
The first and foremost is the fuel that we burn. We're a diesel operation, and we burn number 1 diesel fuel. That's the cleanest diesel fuel that the industry can supply us. And in the last year, we've just guaranteed a year-round supply of number 1 diesel. We pay a slight premium for that, but we feel it's certainly worth it in the long run. Secondly, we keep our vehicles very well maintained. Our buses, we've got a very good preventative maintenance program, and I guess our buses are running about as well as a diesel engine can run. Thirdly, I think the biggest thing that the transit system here or in any city does is basically it takes cars off the road, especially during rush hour, when people are on the bus instead of in their own cars. Transit buses carry, on average, 20 or more passengers at any given time, and an automobile only carries between 1 and 1.5 people during rush hour. And so every car that the transit system gets off the road, there's a significant improvement in air quality. Or I guess speaking the other way, without the transit system, there would be quite a reduction in air quality.
Victoria's bus drivers are known to be the safest in Canada, and passengers trust your drivers because of that reputation. What measures do you take to ensure passenger safety?
Safety and security is a big issue and a very important item for each and every one of our customers. And I think the first two things you mentioned, we do have very, very safe bus drivers. Our drivers have won the distinction of being Canada's safest transit drivers, I think 3 times in the last 10 years. And this year, as we speak, I'll cross my fingers, I think we're on our way to another record year. Secondly, the vehicles themselves, and we mentioned about maintenance, and that we keep the vehicles very well maintained. And those two things right there, I think, are the mainstays of passenger safety and security. Also, our new buses are all coming radio equipped. We're installing a radio. We've embarked on a radio program so that 3 years from now, all buses will be radio equipped. We've just opened up a new transmitter station out in the western communities that allows us to talk to the buses when they're out in Souk. We also have an elementary school program that we take out to preschoolers through grade 2 and 3, and safety is a big part of that program.
I've noticed that during the mornings and late afternoons, the buses going to and from the Lansdowne campus are really crowded. Is anything being done to lessen this crowding?
Right now we respond to that by, if a bus is full, we will put a second bus on the route. We have plans next September to add, well, between next year September and next December in 1991, we will be adding hopefully 25 buses to the transit system, and there we'll be looking at increasing the frequency on some of the main routes, and certainly on the university route, and possibly on the Mount Ptolemy as well.
Chris, thanks for taking the time to answer my questions.
You're quite welcome, Connie.
Taking the bus instead of using a car or motorcycle may take longer to get someplace, but a lot of us look at the positive side. It's things like safety, less air pollution, no parking hassles, and reasonable prices that make buses one of the most common methods of transportation.
Some of us don't have any parking hassles, schedules to follow, or even have to concern ourselves over polluting the environment. I'm Brian, and I walk back and forth to school. It's cheap, convenient, and requires little or no maintenance. There are a few considerations, like how far is too far to walk. I guess that's really a personal decision. It takes about 20 minutes to half an hour to walk 2 kilometers. If we considered this a reasonable distance, what would be your chances of finding a place that close to the college? I went up to the University of Victoria and talked to the people at Housing Services to find out. Many people at Camosun College don't know that the off-campus listings here at the University of Victoria Housing Services are available to Camosun students too. Of course, the on-campus housing at the university is not available to Camosun students, but the listing service here provides a lot of information about some nearby places to live while you're going to school. The listing contains information about the type of accommodation, whether it's houses, apartments, suites, rooms, etc. It also lists the amount of rent, the facilities available, the address, and the approximate distance from school. When I checked the listings at the end of September, there was an average of 25% within 2 kilometers of the school. The listings are changed every month, so they may already be taken, but there's a phone available to make calls to find out. Housing Services will not put a student's name on a waiting list. They only provide a listing of places that are available off campus. This listing service is at no charge to the people who are advertising. If you want to find a place close to the college, you will have to be resourceful, and Housing Services is a great resource. The weather in Victoria can be really unpredictable. When it's nice, walking can be relaxing and pleasant. But
But when it's bad, it can be miserable unless you're prepared.
If you want to be ready for anything, you need to buy something light, waterproof, wind-resistant, and hopefully suitable for any weather in between.
It's hard to find anything with these features that's inexpensive, but you can bet that if you spend money on good weather gear, it'll last you a long time. Where you might also want to spend big money is on your feet. It's at least as important as buying good tires for your car. If you walked 4 kilometers to school and back every day, in a year you would have walked 580 kilometers, or the entire length of Vancouver Island from tip to tip. If you were planning on making that trip, you'd probably buy good shoes.
Safety in today's heavy traffic conditions deserves a mention. A car traveling at 50 kilometers per hour takes about 50 feet to stop in good weather. As a pedestrian, you usually have the right of way, but this won't stop a speeding car. Make eye contact with the drivers and indicate that you would like to cross. Never assume that they can see you or that they can stop. As we venture further into the age of convenience, walking has become a last resort to most people. If you want to get to school on foot, it will take some planning and expense, but far less than other means of transportation.
Walking is cheap, non-polluting, and healthy. The only fuel you need is a good diet. And besides, you might meet some friends along the way.
Please join Camosun Today next week when we take a look at the Hotel and Restaurant Administration program. Camosun Today
has been produced by
students in the
Applied
Communication
program.
If you have any
Questions
or comments,
please feel free
to contact us.